After my niece said no one would notice if I was gone, I made sure they did. Family dinners in the Westbrook house always came with a price. You had to sit through the jokes, the digs disguised as humor, the smug little insults that everyone laughed at like they were just harmless tradition. You had to pretend they didn't sting, that they weren't aimed with purpose, that they didn't always somehow land on me. But that night, they went too far. And I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't flip a table or storm out like a dramatic teenager. I just left and watched everything fall without me. It was a Sunday, late fall, cold outside, warm inside in that fake way where the air feels heavy from too many bodies crammed into a room pretending to care about each other. We were celebrating my niece Chloe's 13th birthday. I'd bought her a phone, a $950 iPhone with a case, screen protector, and prepaid SIM card. Not because I was trying to show off, but because I'd helped raise her. Paid for her clothes when my sister couldn't. Showed up when her dad skipped out. Covered school supplies, birthday parties, even her damn braces. Nobody else was doing it. And she knew. Or so I thought. She opened the box and screamed like I gave her a car. I smiled. And then she looked up, this big grin still plastered on her face, and said, "Mom says if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next, she giggled. Not nervously. Not unsure. Like it was funny. Like she thought I'd laugh too. The room fell silent for half a second, like even gravity took a breath, and then someone chuckled. My mother, Karen, tried to force a smile. "Oh, Chloe, that's not very nice." But her tone was light. Soft. The way you scold a toddler for using the wrong fork, not for punching a hole in someone's chest. Brittany, my sister, was already fake laughing. "She's kidding, come on. Don't be so sensitive." My father, Rick, looked over his glass of bourbon with this smug little smirk. Didn't say a word. Didn't have to. And Chloe? She just looked at me, waiting for me to laugh. So I did what none of them expected. I smiled. A real one. Calm. Small. And I said, "You're right." Then I stood up. No one moved. No one spoke. I walked into the hallway, grabbed my coat, stepped outside, and shut the door behind me. Didn't slam it. Didn't even look back. Just walked away. I didn't answer their calls that night, or the next day, or the week after that. I blocked them one by one. Karen, Brittany, Chloe's school, the house phone, my father's office line. Gone. What they didn't know, what they never paid enough attention to notice, was that they needed me a hell of a lot more than I ever needed them. Because behind the scenes, I've been paying for the internet. The power bill was in my name. The mortgage, after Brittany fell behind again last year, I covered that for 6 months so Chloe wouldn't get yanked from her district. They didn't even know the Wi-Fi password because I'd set it up years ago and never shared it again. Within 48 hours, their house went dark. No cable. No internet. No heat. I got a message from Brittany through a mutual friend. "I don't know what you're doing, but you're acting like a child." That made me laugh. A child? No. Children give without being noticed. Children exist to serve in silence, at least in our family. I was just finally acting like someone who knew his worth. On day 3, I packed a small black backpack. No explanation. No apology. I left it outside the front door of their house. No note. No message. Inside the bag, a printed list of every bill I'd paid for the last 5 years. A copy of Chloe's phone receipt and activation plan. A flash drive with copies of all the emails where Brittany asked me for money. And a single post-it that said, "This is the last thing I'll ever give you." They didn't respond. For 2 days. Then Rick called from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. "You made your point. Now stop playing martyr and come clean up your mess." Mess? I listened to that voicemail twice. Not out of shock, out of fascination. Even now, with everything laid bare, they still saw me as the problem. That's when I knew I wasn't coming back. A week after I disappeared, Chloe's school called my old work number. Said she hadn't turned in her homework. That her phone had been taken away. Apparently her mom was mad she couldn't get it to sync because the password was tied to my Apple ID. Of course it was. She couldn't even use the phone I bought her. That Friday, they showed up at my apartment. Karen, Rick, Brittany, 3 grown adults standing in a hallway they used to call disgusting. Suddenly humble. Suddenly quiet. Rick banged on the door. "We need to talk." I sat on the other side. Didn't say a word. Didn't open it. I waited. Listened. Eventually they left. I watched them through the peephole as they walked to the car. Brittany looked pissed. Karen looked tired. Rick was shaking his head like I was the disappointment. And all I felt was this strange, unfamiliar calm. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just done. There's something fascinating about silence. How it makes people squirm. How how it forces them to fill in the blanks, with assumptions, with projections, with whatever version of the truth they can weaponize. The Westbrooks weren't built for silence. They were built for noise. Yelling, guilt-tripping, passive-aggressive phone calls, showy apologies followed by months of quiet resentment. So when I disappeared, really disappeared, they didn't panic at first. They just got louder. The first wave came through Facebook. Karen posted one of those vague, sobbing grandma-style rants. Please keep our family in your prayers. Sometimes people you love turn their back on you without warning. God sees everything. No names. No context. But the comments were full of guesses. A few distant cousins chimed in. One said, "You're such a strong mom. You've done so much for your kids." That made me laugh out loud. Karen hadn't done anything for Brittany since she was 22, unless you count enabling every reckless decision she ever made. Then Brittany posted her own masterpiece. When someone cuts off the people who were always there for them, that's on them, not us. Some bridges burned themselves. I screenshotted it. Not because I was hurt. Because I wanted proof or receipts of the story they were crafting. In their version, I was the unstable one. The bitter son. The ungrateful brother. The weirdo who gave up on his family over a joke. They left out the part where my 12-year-old niece told me I could disappear and no one would notice. They left out the years of unpaid bills, quiet rescues, and emotional debt I had covered without ever asking for thanks. Day 6. Uncle Dave called. Left a voicemail. "Hey kiddo, your mom's worried sick. Whatever's going on, don't punish the whole family for it. You know how your dad gets." Ah yes. Classic Westbrook logic. Dad lashes out, I go silent on the problem for not making it easier on him. I didn't call back. Then came the second wave. People started showing up. First was Aunt Terry. She came during the workday, probably assuming I'd be home since I wasn't talking to anyone. She left a basket. Actual cookies. A card taped to the outside said, "We love you, even when you're being dramatic." I left it in the hallway. Then came Brittany. Not alone this time. She brought Chloe. They knocked for a full 5 minutes. Called my name. Whispered loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Chloe wants to apologize, Aaron." She didn't mean it. Sure she didn't. I watched from behind the curtain. Chloe was staring at her shoes. Brittany was doing that performative sad mom voice. "Just let us in. We'll talk. We'll fix this." Fix what? Her default wasn't to take responsibility. It was to stage a moment. A scene. A gesture that looked like remorse, but reeked of manipulation. I didn't open the door. Again. Then, for the first time in years, Rick texted me directly. One sentence. "You're acting like your mother." Now that almost got a rise out of me. Because if there's one thing Rick hated more than weakness, it was being ignored. And if there's one thing he feared more than being wrong, it was being irrelevant. So I knew he was unraveling. I sent him a screenshot. One image. The receipts in that black backpack I left. No text. Just the total. $18,420.17. That's what I'd covered for my family in 4 years. Utilities. Mortgage extensions. Chloe's medical bills. Grocery store runs. Repairs on Brittany's car. Even that emergency credit card payment Karen needed when her account got hacked. Which, by the way, wasn't hacked. Rick never responded. Day 9. My landlord calls. Says someone tried to come in to check on me. Used my name. Said they were family. Didn't have a key. He told them to get off the property. When I asked who it was, he said it was Rick and Karen, and they weren't polite about being told no. I thanked him and sent a digital tip. Then I added a new lock to my door. You'd think they'd stop. But the more I didn't respond, the louder they got. Brittany messaged me again. This time, "You're ruining Chloe's life. She cried for hours after we left your place. I hope you're happy." That one stuck for a second. Because I do love Chloe. But then I remembered her smile, wide and real, when she told me what her mom said about me. If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. She said it with laughter. Like it was true. And maybe, in their house, it was. On day 10, I got a letter in the mail. Real pen and paper. From Karen. Front of the envelope said, "From a mother who will always love you." Inside, 6 pages of guilt. 6 pages of rewrites. She told me I was being unfair. That family has rough patches. That I was punishing Chloe for something she doesn't even remember saying. No apology. No ownership. Just word salad meant to drag me back to the dinner table with my head down like always. At the end, she wrote, "You know we'll always take you back." Like I was the prodigal son. Not the backbone they'd leaned on for a decade. I shredded it. Put the pieces in a Ziploc bag. Labeled it. Attempt number 1, guilt disguised as grace. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Because I wasn't just invisible anymore. I was in control. And the longer I stayed quiet, the more they revealed exactly who they were without me holding their chaos together. Rick never was the patient type. Growing up, we used to joke that if he didn't get his coffee by 7:05, someone was getting yelled at by 7:10. It was just dad being dad. We never called it what it really was: control, intimidation. He ruled our house with a stare and a silence that meant more than any slap ever could. So when 10 days of silence passed without me crawling back, he didn't stew. He didn't apologize. He escalated. It happened on a Thursday. I came home late after working a half shift at the firm, one of the few things I hadn't walked away from. My mind was fried from spreadsheets and numbers, but I felt good. Still centered. Still calm. Until I opened my apartment door and saw Rick standing in my living room. For a full 5 seconds, I just stared. He was looking at the coffee table, where the black backpack sat like a time bomb. Unzipped. Papers slightly scattered. "How'd you get in?" I asked. No anger in my voice. Just disbelief. He turned slowly. Like he wasn't surprised to see me. "Your mother still had the spare. You never changed the locks." Correction, I changed the front lock. What I hadn't considered was the old one on the back door, the one I never used. "That's on me." I walked past him, picked up the backpack, sat down on the couch like this was just another Thursday. He didn't speak for a minute. Then, "This is your plan? Go radio silent, act like a ghost, and hope we just forget?" I didn't answer. He grabbed a piece of paper off the floor, one of the receipts. Chloe's orthodontist invoice. Paid in full. My name on the check. "You think this makes you a hero?" Still, I said nothing. That made him mad. I could see it, the twitch in his jaw, the way he stepped in close. "You think money replaces family? Loyalty? Respect?" I looked up at him then. "Finally. Loyalty," I said calmly. "You raised a daughter who mocks people behind their back and a wife who lets her. You raised a son you only call when you need a bailout. You have never once, not once, asked me if I was okay. Not in 33 years. He scoffed, waved the receipt. "You were always too sensitive. Always needed things to be fair." "No," I said. "I needed things to be true." Then he lost it. He started grabbing papers from the backpack, waving them like they meant nothing. "What is this? A bill of guilt? A financial confession? You think this proves something?" I stood up, took the folder from his hand, and set it on the table. "That backpack is yours now." He blinked. "What?" "That's your legacy. Every dollar, every favor, every request, every time I made your life easier while you made mine smaller. Keep it. I don't want your damn pity." "It's not pity," I said. "It's evidence." He didn't get it. Not yet. But he would. Because in that backpack, in addition to the bills, was a small flash drive. And on that flash drive, I'd recorded every voicemail they left me over the past year. Every "Can you float us this month?" Every "Just this once." Every "You owe us, we raised you." Even the one from Karen where she said, and I quote, "You'll never be more than what we made you." I didn't tell him about the drive. Just pointed at the door. "Leave." He hesitated. Like he wanted one more shot. One more round of gaslight. But I guess something in my face told him the fight was over. He walked out without another word. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Just left. The next morning, the apartment felt clean. Not because it was tidy. It was actually a mess. But something toxic had finally been flushed out. I changed the locks on both doors that afternoon. And that night, I slept like a dead man. On Saturday, I got a text from Brittany. Blocked number. No name. But I knew the tone. "What the hell did you give Dad?" "He's flipping out. Said he's done playing games." "If you're trying to burn bridges, congrats, it worked." I didn't answer. Instead, I sent one file. An MP3 of her own voice. Begging me for rent money 2 months ago while calling her ex-husband a deadbeat junkie. No caption. Just the clip. 10 minutes later, she blocked me. That was the first domino. By Monday, no one in the family had reached out. Not Karen. Not Chloe. Not Uncle Dave. Silence. It felt like winning. But not in a petty way. In a clean way. A final way. Like the noise had finally stopped because I unplugged the whole damn system. I kept the backpack. Not as a trophy. As a reminder of how close I came to letting people erase me completely. All while they ate food I bought, wore clothes I paid for, and rolled their eyes behind my back. They didn't just use me. They depended on me. And now that I was gone, they were learning how much I'd carried without complaint. It started with a text. From Rick, of course. After 2 weeks of silence following the break-in, no calls, no fake apologies, no guilt bombs, I figured I'd finally hit the part of the story where they stopped trying. Then this showed up. Brown's tickets. Section 114. Row E. "You always loved football. Let's talk." I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I wanted to say yes. Not because I thought he missed me. Because it was exactly the kind of bait he'd use, mix nostalgia with control, rapid and manly bonding, then act like the past never happened. But this time, I wasn't going there to forgive him. I was going there to watch him break. Sunday afternoon. Cleveland Stadium. Freezing wind, cheap parking, overpriced beer. Every Midwestern dad's fantasy. I showed up in jeans and a hoodie. Nothing to prove. Rick was already seated when I got there, beer in hand, smiling like we hadn't gone full nuclear 3 weeks ago. Thought you'd chicken out, he said without looking at me. I sat down. Didn't reply. We watched kickoff in silence. 10 minutes in, he finally said it. Look, I know we said things. Both of us. I get that emotions were high. He said, we. Like it was mutual. Like I'd flipped a table or screamed in his face or cursed at a child. I didn't take the bait. Just nodded once. He went on. Your mother's a wreck. Brittany can't sleep. Chloe's failing history. Then he turned to look at me. We need you back. There it was. Not I'm sorry. Not we were wrong. Just we need you. I took a long sip of my Coke. Then I said, you remember when I was 10? When I spilled juice on your tax forms? He blinked. What? You dragged me outside in front of the neighbors. Screamed at me for 15 minutes. Made me sit in the garage for 3 hours. Said if I wanted to act like an idiot, I could stay with the tools. He looked away. It was one time. You were a kid. You never apologized. I don't remember that. I do, I said. I remember all of it. Then I pulled a piece of folded paper from my jacket pocket. It wasn't the backpack files. Just one page, a printout of the transcript from that voicemail Karen left me 2 years ago. You'll never be anything without us. Don't forget who raised you. I handed it to him. You want to talk? I said. Let's talk about that. His face hardened. Why are you doing this here? In public? Because it's the only place you don't get to yell. He laughed, dry and bitter. You want revenge? You want to humiliate me in front of strangers? No, I said. I want you to know that your silence isn't enough anymore. I want you to look me in the eye and say it. Out loud. Say what? That you used me. That you dismissed me. That you believed a joke was more important than your own son's dignity. He stared ahead at the field. The crowd roared. A touchdown. Neither of us flinched. I did what I had to do, he muttered. To keep this family together. No, I said. You did what was easiest for you. A guy 2 rows down turned around. Watched us. I didn't care. Let him hear. Rick shook his head. You're selfish. You think you're some kind of martyr. But you walked away. You left the kid hurting. I stood up. No. I left a family that thought I was furniture, useful, replaceable, and silent. I handed him another piece of paper. This one? The notarized document revoking the shared cell phone account I'd set up for Brittany and Chloe. It's done, I said. All of it. No more money. No more calls. No more guilt. Rick didn't take it. Just glared at me like I'd betrayed some sacred trust. You'll regret this. I already did, I said. For 33 years. And then I walked out of the stadium. I got 3 calls that night. Brittany. Blocked. Karen. Blocked. Then Chloe. I paused. Let it ring. On the 4th try, I answered. Hi. Her voice was small. Broken. Why won't you talk to us? Because the last time I did, you laughed when your mom said no one would notice if I disappeared. Silence. Then, I didn't mean it. But you said it. She told me it was funny. I nodded to myself. Tell her that's the last joke she ever gets at my expense. Then I hung up. I didn't feel heroic. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt done. Not in anger and clarity. That stadium wasn't a war zone. It was a stage. And for once, I wasn't the prop. You'd think after that scene at the stadium, the papers, the walkout, the final words, they'd get it. But the thing about people like my family, they don't know how to exist without someone to argue with. They don't know how to shut up unless they're being heard. So when I stopped talking, that was the loudest thing I ever did. The Monday after the game, I deleted every contact from my phone. Not just Rick, Karen, and Brittany. Everyone. Cousins. Family friends. Distant aunts who only popped up when someone needed a ride to the airport. Gone. If anyone wanted to reach me, they'd have to find me. And even then, I wouldn't be answering. The calls ramped up first. I stopped counting after 12. Blocked numbers. New numbers. Emails. Work lines. Even a LinkedIn message from some guy who used to mow Rick's lawn 20 years ago. I guess they were getting creative. Then came the mail. Handwritten letters. Karen's were the worst. Not because they were mean, because they were desperate. We miss you. Come home. You don't have to say anything. Just be here. She still didn't get it. She thought silence was a strategy, a negotiation. She didn't understand that silence was the answer. 3 weeks passed. Then one night, I came home from work to find a notebook on my doorstep. No envelope. No address. Just Chloe's handwriting on the front. I'm sorry. I stood there staring at it for 5 full minutes. Then I brought it inside. I didn't open it. I didn't even touch it again. I slid it into a drawer and closed it. Because this wasn't a test. This wasn't a challenge to see if I still cared. I cared, but not enough to open wounds I'd finally stitched shut. 2 days later, I got a text. Unblocked number. I hope you're happy. Mom hasn't left her room in days. Chloe's falling apart. And Dad is drinking every night. You destroyed this family. Brittany, of course. Always the victim, even when the knife is in her own hand. I didn't reply. Then something unexpected happened. A letter. But this one wasn't begging. It was from Rick. Typed. 1 page. Clean and cold. Just like him. I know I said things I can't take back. Maybe I believed them at the time. Maybe I didn't. But you made your point. We'll stop reaching out. Do what you want. This is your call now. No apology. No emotion. Just surrender. And that was the moment I finally exhaled. Because even if it took humiliation, exposure, and silence, he gave up trying to control me. That weekend, I took the notebook Chloe left and walked to the park. Sat on a bench. Held it for a while. I didn't read it. I just sat with it. Acknowledged it. Then I stood up, walked over to the trash can, and dropped it in. Not out of cruelty. Out of finality. You don't get to drop a nuke in someone's chest and expect a thank you card for feeling bad later. She was a kid, yeah, but she knew what she said. She said it with laughter. And she said it because Brittany taught her it was okay. That's not a Chloe problem. That's a cycle problem. And I'm not the solution anymore. 2 months passed without a word. The silence? It wasn't empty. It was full of everything they refused to hear when I was still talking. Their mess. Their shame. Their need to believe I was just being sensitive, not finally seeing the truth. Sometimes people ask if I'll ever talk to them again. I say, would you invite a thief back after they cleaned out your house? They didn't just take money. They took peace, time, trust, energy, and they laughed while doing it. My life now? It's quiet. Not lonely. Just mine. I work. I read. I sleep better than I have in years. I finally booked that solo trip to Colorado I'd been putting off for 5 birthdays in a row. I'm learning to cook. My apartment stays clean. I never have to justify why I'm not coming to Sunday dinner, because Sunday dinner doesn't come with guilt anymore. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped walking across it. And when they realized I was serious, that's when it collapsed under its own weight. There's a strange calm that sets in when you finally stop explaining yourself. It's not like you stop caring overnight. You just stop performing. You stop shrinking yourself down to be digestible. You stop bleeding for people who treat your kindness like a coupon they can reuse whenever they're short on effort. You just stop. And what's left behind is peace. Not loud. Not grand. Just steady. It's been 6 months since I disappeared. They haven't called in 3. Not since Rick's typed out surrender landed in my mailbox like a resignation letter. Not since I tossed Chloe's notebook in the trash and didn't feel the need to tell anyone. They finally believed me because I finally believed myself. They thought I needed them more than they needed me. And now they know that wasn't true. People ask me how I did it. How I walked away from an entire family. From a niece I once adored. From the people who raised me, fed me, paid for school supplies and dental checkups. You want to know how? I remember that raising someone doesn't mean you own them. It means you care for them without expectation. It means you don't use the word ungrateful every time they say no. It means you don't weaponize history to avoid accountability. Karen used to say, we may not be perfect, but we're still family. That's how they justify it. That's how they trap you. They tell you blood is thicker than boundaries. They tell you being related means they get to say whatever they want, and you're supposed to take it, because family. But let me tell you something. Family that only shows up when you're useful is not family. It's a subscription, and I finally canceled mine. My apartment feels bigger now. Not because it's changed, but because I'm no longer carrying people who think loyalty is silence. I picked up photography again. I've been running. Real running. Not the kind where your brain is sprinting through past conversations at 2 a.m. I go outside now because I want to, not because I'm trying to escape. I started saying no more. And yes, to things that don't come with strings. I met someone. It's early, quiet, healthy. She asks questions and waits for the answers. The first time I said, I don't talk to my family, she just nodded. Didn't flinch. Didn't probe. Just said, okay, let me know if you ever want to. That's all I ever needed. Do I miss Chloe? Sometimes. But I miss who I thought she was. I miss the little girl who used to draw me birthday cards with glitter glue and tell me I was her favorite grown-up. I don't miss the teenager who laughed at a joke that ripped me in half. And maybe that sounds cold. But I stopped apologizing for protecting myself. I didn't write this story for sympathy. I wrote it because maybe someone out there needs to hear it. Someone sitting through another family dinner where they're the punchline. Someone who's been called dramatic, ungrateful, selfish, just for saying enough. Someone whose silence is being misread as weakness, when really it's the first taste of peace. If that's you, let me say it clearly. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they knew you before you had boundaries. You're allowed to walk away. And you don't need to explain why. I didn't burn the bridge, but I sure as hell won't rebuild it. Not when I've finally built a place where I can breathe. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too.